Imagine walking into a room, right, just seconds after some kind of sudden chaotic incident has occurred.
Okay, yeah. Like right after the dust settles.
Exactly. You don't know exactly what happened yet. Maybe two people are standing in the corner, looking away from each other.
Right.
Maybe a chair is knocked over. The air is still, thick with whatever just took place.
You can almost feel the tension in the room.
You really can.
Yeah.
You look around, trying to take it all in, trying to figure out where to even begin. But what you might not realize in that very moment is that the truth of what just happened is, well, it's already starting to slip away.
Wow. Yeah, it's fading immediately.
Right. And the most unsettling part is that the scene is actually shifting. It's changing, warping, simply because you just walked through the door.
Oh, for sure. Your mere presence introduces this massive new variable into a highly volatile environment
Right.
because we all naturally walk through the world assuming we are just, I don't know, passive cameras.
But we're just recording a static reality.
Exactly, observing a static reality. But human situations, especially high-stress ones, they just don't work like that.
Yeah.
The instant a new person enters the equation, the people involved, they adjust their posture, they reconsider what they're about to say,
Yeah.
and the raw truth of the moment begins to degrade immediately.
That volatile, fragile reality is exactly what we're unpacking today for our deep dive. And we're using a genuinely fascinating intersection of two worlds that, honestly, you would never normally put together.
No, definitely not.
We are looking at a case study titled, What a DSL Can Learn From a Forensic Scientist.
Such an interesting premise.
Right. Now, just to give everyone a quick lay of the land, a DSL is a designated safeguarding lead.
Yeah.
So if you work in a school or a community organization or even certain corporate environments, that's the person whose specific legal and moral job is to protect vulnerable people and investigate incidents.
The one who steps in when things go wrong.
Exactly. And our mission today is to explore how the cold, methodical, deeply analytical discipline of forensic science can completely transform the highly emotional, messy, human world of safeguarding.
And that contrast is really what makes this framework so incredibly powerful. I mean, we associate forensics with sterile environments.
Oh, totally. Like
Yeah.
clean rooms, microscopes, DNA swabs.
Exactly, a totally detached approach to finding facts. But pastoral care and safeguarding, on the other hand, are built entirely on human relationships.
Yeah, it's all about empathy.
Empathy, building trust, and, navigating really messy emotions.
So messy.
So on the surface, applying a crime scene methodology to, say, a crying student or an agitated employee, it just sounds completely mismatched.
It really does. But the principles at play here, specifically how to keep your own brain from destroying the truth in a high-stakes moment, they apply far beyond schools or crime scenes.
Oh, absolutely. It's universal.
Right. If you manage a team, if you're a parent trying to figure out which kid broke the lamp.
I've been there.
Right. Or if you're just navigating a complex conflict of your personal life, understanding this dynamic completely shifts how you approach the world.
It really does.
So let's start at that moment of walking into the room. Because to figure out how to find the truth, we first have to understand the mechanics of how the truth is accidentally destroyed in, the first 3 minutes.
Yeah, so forensic scientists, they operate on this foundational law of physics called Locard's exchange principle.
Locard's exchange principle.
Right, which essentially states that every contact leaves a trace.
Yep.
The moment a technician enters a physical scene, they run the risk of altering it. If they aren't painfully careful, they might kick a microscopic shard of glass under a desk.
Oh, wow.
Or move a fiber or step on a footprint. The environment instantly becomes a mixture of the original event and the investigator's own presence.
That makes a lot of sense for physical stuff. But in the safeguarding and management world, this contamination isn't usually physical, right?
No, it's not. It happens verbally.
Verbal contamination.
Exactly.
I love that concept because it paints such a vivid picture. I keep imagining, walking through a pristine, untouched, snow-covered field to go look at something interesting in the middle.
Right, yeah.
But I'm wearing these giant, heavy, muddy boots.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
Right. By the time I get to the center, I've tracked my own footprints everywhere. I look back, and the snow is just ruined.
Completely ruined.
I can't tell what the landscape actually looked like before I got there and what is just the mess I brought with me. But how does that muddy boot effect actually play out in a real conversation?
Well, it really comes down to how human memory functions.
Okay.
We tend to think of memory like a hard drive. An event happens, it gets recorded into a video file in our brain, and when someone asks us a question, we just hit play.
Yeah, we just described the video.
Exactly. But neuroscience tells us memory doesn't work like that at all. Memory is reconstructive.
Reconstructive, meaning we build it as we go.
Yes. Every single time you recall an event, your brain is actively rebuilding it from scratch, synthesizing all these fragments of sensory data.
Wow. Yeah.
And in the immediate aftermath of a stressful event, that reconstruction process is incredibly fragile. It's highly suggestible.
So if a manager or a teacher walks into a situation and immediately gasps or looks terrified,
Yeah.
they aren't just reacting. They are injecting new emotional data into the other person's brain before the memory has even settled.
Yes, the verbal contamination happens the exact moment you open your mouth with anything other than total neutrality.
So give me an example of how that happens.
Sure. So if a vulnerable person, let's say a student, comes to a DSL to disclose something, they're usually in a state of really high anxiety.
Right, their adrenaline is pumping.
Exactly. If the adult leans in and asks a leading question like, did he yell at you?
Oh.
They have just contaminated the scene.
Because you just handed their brain a script.
You've planted the concept of yelling directly into their reconstructive process.
That is wild.
Yeah, the student's brain now visualizes the yelling to process the question, and because their state is so fragile, that visualization can easily merge with their actual memory of the event.
Oh my gosh.
So a week later, they might swear up and down that the person was screaming at them, genuinely believing it.
Just because the investigator handed them that vocabulary?
Exactly.
That is honestly terrifying. Because it means my good intentions, right? Me trying to figure out if someone got yelled at to protect them.
Yeah, your desire to help?
That actually overwrites the only copy of the truth we had.
That's the danger. A forensic scientist would never walk into a room, point at a broken window, and say to the witness, so the struggle definitely happened right there.
Right. They wouldn't lead the witness, they would just look at the glass.
Which is why the discipline of neutral observation is so critical. You prevent tracking those conversational muddy footprints by deliberately stripping away your own input.
So how do we actually do that in practice?
You use vast, open questions. Things like, tell me what happened today, rather than who started the fight.
Okay, so keeping it super broad.
Yes. You embrace silence. You actively avoid speculating out loud. And perhaps most importantly, you enforce a strict quarantine on information.
So no venting in the break room.
Never. Office gossip is the ultimate contaminant.
Oh, I bet.
If you casually mention a detail to a colleague and they later talk to a witness, that detail might subconsciously bleed into the witness's account.
Because everyone is just absorbing pieces of the story.
Right. The entire goal in these opening moments is to understand what the raw evidence actually supports, rather than proving what we suspect or hope happened.
Okay, but wait. Even if I do all of that perfectly,
Right.
let's say I walk in, I keep my boots clean, I ask the perfect open-ended questions, I quarantine the information, and I get a completely uncontaminated view of the evidence.
Best case scenario.
Yeah. What happens if I just simply hate the answer? Like, what if the pure evidence is pointing toward a reality that I really don't want to believe? Maybe it's about a colleague I respect or a friend. How do I fight my own brain?
Well, you've just identified the second and arguably much harder phase of this process.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, it's the battle between observable evidence and confirmation bias. Gathering clean evidence is essentially a mechanical skill.
Right. You can just learn the steps.
Exactly. But processing that evidence without filtering it through your own desires, that requires fighting against thousands of years of human evolutionary psychology.
Because our brains are lazy, right? We want the world to make sense.
Totally.
And we want it to fit the stories we've already written.
Exactly. Forensics relies entirely on observable facts. A DNA swab doesn't care if the suspect is a nice guy.
No, it definitely doesn't.
Right. A blood spatter pattern doesn't have an emotional assumption attached to it. But human management, and certainly safeguarding, is completely soaked in emotion.
It is entirely emotional.
Yeah. And the brain actually treats a challenge to our core beliefs very similarly to a physical threat.
Wait, really? Like a physical threat?
Yes. It uses immense cognitive energy to protect the assumptions we hold about the world and the people in it. In a school environment or a corporate office, there is a tremendous unspoken pressure to maintain the status quo.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
People don't want to rock the boat.
Staff instinctively want to defend colleagues they trust. Parents will naturally minimize concerns about their own children to protect their family narrative.
Yeah.
And institutions, they possess this subconscious structural desire to protect their reputation.
Which creates this environment where narratives completely masquerade as evidence.
On the time.
We hear things all the time like, oh, they would never do that, or she's just a dramatic person, or he comes from a great family.
Yes, and those phrases are incredibly dangerous because they feel like facts to the person saying them.
Yeah.
But they are entirely subjective narratives.
I have to push back on this a little bit, though, because isn't the whole point of a community, like a good school or a strong team, that we actually know the people we are dealing with?
Yes.
Like if I've managed an employee for 5 years or taught a student since they were freshmen, I know their baseline.
You have context, yeah.
Right. Isn't knowing that a particular kid tends to exaggerate or that a specific manager is generally a stand-up guy, isn't that valuable context? It feels a little cynical to treat human relationships as a toxic bias instead of helpful background information.
It is a completely natural reaction to feel that way. And honestly, it is the exact trap that many well-meaning, highly experienced professionals fall into
Oh boy.
because they confuse familiarity with objectivity. The framework counters this with a concept called professional truth.
Professional truth.
Yes. The danger isn't that knowing a student's history is useless, it is useful. The danger is interpreting the current physical evidence through the filter of that history.
Ah, I see. So the narrative acts like a pair of tinted glasses.
Exactly.
Everything I look at changes color to match the lens.
That is the perfect way to describe the mechanism. If your underlying narrative is, this student is always dramatic, and she walks into your office visibly distressed with a torn sleeve,
Yeah.
your brain will automatically, almost instantly, search for ways to explain away the torn sleeve as a byproduct of her drama.
Oh, wow. Like, I might assume she snagged it on a doorframe while storming down the hall.
Right. You are no longer looking at the torn sleeve as an independent piece of evidence. Your brain has subordinated the physical fact to the pre-existing narrative, basically just to save cognitive energy.
That is deeply unsettling because we all do it effortlessly.
Constantly.
We have these comfortable stories about everyone in our lives. We want to wrap a messy situation up in a neat little bow and say, I know Bob. Bob is a great guy. This complaint must just be a massive misunderstanding.
And that is exactly when a leader or a DSL becomes really dangerous.
Wow.
It happens when the investigation subtly shifts from an attempt to understand reality into an exercise in confirming a pre-existing belief. You end up working backward.
So you start with the conclusion.
Exactly. You start with Bob is a good guy and you comb through the evidence, only picking up the pieces that support that outcome, discarding the rest as anomalies.
Just tossing out anything that doesn't fit the Bob narrative.
Yes. Maintaining professional curiosity means you have to hold uncertainty. You have to endure the profound discomfort of not knowing the answer and truly let the evidence lead the interpretation.
Okay, so if we manage to do that, if we strip away the narrative, take off the tinted glasses and sit in that discomfort, what are we actually looking for? Because in the real world, the truth rarely announces itself with a giant flashing neon sign. It's almost never a smoking gun.
Right. It's rarely that obvious. In forensic science, major breakthroughs almost never come from a massive, obvious clue. The truth lives in the micro detail.
Micro detail.
Yeah. It's a timeline where a 5-minute window doesn't quite make sense. It's a microscopic pattern on a piece of clothing. It's a slight, seemingly irrelevant inconsistency between two different witness statements. Those tiny variables, when aggregated, completely altered the physics of the scene.
I imagine in the real world of safeguarding, or human resources, a micro detail isn't a fiber on a jacket.
No, definitely not.
It's got to be behavioral, right? A kid who is normally the class clown being inexplicably quiet on a Tuesday, or an employee who suddenly stops CCing a specific manager on their emails.
Precisely those kinds of subtle shifts. Major safeguarding breakthroughs are almost always built from an accumulation of incredibly minor disclosures and low-level concerns.
Just tiny little things over time.
Right. A slight change in how a student interacts with a particular peer. A sudden flinching reaction that wasn't there before.
It's like you are tasked with putting together a 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle, but someone threw away the box.
Exactly.
You have absolutely no idea what the final picture is supposed to be. It could be a landscape, it could be a portrait, so you can't just glance at a piece and know where it goes.
Right. You don't have the big picture yet.
You have to document the exact shape, the exact color, the exact weird little jagged edge of every single individual piece the moment you find it.
Because if you just toss them all in a drawer...
Right. By the time you realize you need them, they'll be warped.
Exactly. The ticking clock of memory degradation is the central antagonist here. The brain dumps irrelevant data constantly to make room for new information.
That makes sense.
So if you notice a student being unusually quiet and you don't record it, your brain will likely discard that memory within a few days because it doesn't fit a larger, meaningful narrative yet.
Wow, it just deletes the file.
Pretty much. In both forensics and safeguarding, you are fighting a war against time.
Which brings us to the actual mechanics of writing things down. If our brains are this flawed, how we document those puzzle pieces must matter immensely.
But documentation is where the forensic discipline really shines. Records must be prompt, entirely accurate, and rigorously factual.
Okay, rigorously factual.
Yes. The distinction between a factual record and a subjective one is where most systems fail. For example, you do not write down, "Jimmy seemed sad today."
Because sad is an interpretation.
Exactly. Sad is a narrative.
Right, because sad means I'm projecting my own emotional vocabulary onto Jimmy.
Precisely. A factual forensic record says, at 10:15 a.m., Jimmy sat alone at his desk, stared at the floor, and did not respond verbally when asked a direct question by the teacher.
Oh, wow. That is incredibly specific.
That is an observable reality. Preserving that granular objective detail is the only way the actual truth can emerge from the noise weeks or months later.
Like when an investigator is trying to see if Jimmy's behavior correlates with another event.
Exactly. If you don't write down the exact shape of the puzzle piece...
When you finally try to connect it to something else later, it won't fit.
Right. The pieces have to be pristine. It is a painstaking, sometimes tedious process, but that objective rigor is the foundational bedrock of actually protecting vulnerable people.
Okay, I want to pivot here because we have been leaning incredibly heavily into this forensic analogy.
We have.
And treating a school environment or a corporate office or a family like a sterile, objective laboratory is obviously a highly effective way to gather and protect evidence.
Sure.
But a school is not a laboratory.
No, it's really not.
It is full of living, breathing, vulnerable human beings. You have kids who are terrified, staff who are burning out, parents who are defensive. A DSL isn't examining a fiber under a microscope.
Right.
They are sitting across a desk from a crying 12-year-old.
Right.
Where does this analogy deliberately break down?
It's a vital distinction, and it's so important we cover this. Taking this framework too literally is actually dangerous.
Okay.
We have to acknowledge the absolute limits of the forensic mindset because safeguarding is not a criminal investigation.
Right. Students are not cases to be solved and closed.
They aren't. A
Yeah.
forensic scientist's job is fundamentally retrospective. They arrive after the damage is done.
Yeah, that's true.
They perform scientific analysis, objective reconstruction, and then they hand over a report and walk away. Their process requires total detachment.
But a DSL can't do that.
No, a DSL, or any good leader, provides human-centered intervention. They practice relational safeguarding. They don't get to walk away.
You have to see that kid in the hallway the next day.
Exactly. They have an ongoing, daily pastoral responsibility to the very people they are investigating.
That feels like an impossible contradiction.
It is tough.
How do you actually practically balance that in the room? How do you remain a detached, objective, cold scientist in your head,
Gathering facts, noting timelines.
checking your biases,
Right.
while simultaneously being a warm, compassionate, deeply supportive human being to the person sitting right in front of you?
It requires a dual processing mode that is often referred to as professional neutrality.
Professional neutrality.
Yes. And the biggest misconception about neutrality is that it means emotional coldness or acting like a robot.
Yeah, like you just sit there with a clipboard and a blank stare.
Right, which would be incredibly damaging to someone who is already vulnerable.
Oh, absolutely.
Professional neutrality means your empathy is abundant, but your interpretation is anchored entirely in evidence, not emotion.
Okay, break that down for me.
It means you can provide comfort, you can offer a safe space, you can validate someone's distress without prematurely validating a conclusion about what caused it.
So supporting someone compassionately and remaining objective aren't opposites.
Not at all.
They actually rely on each other. Because if I am not objective, my compassion might be completely misguided.
Yes.
If I jump to a conclusion because I think I know the student's family, I might offer comfort that completely misses the actual root cause of their pain. My bias makes my empathy ineffective.
Exactly. Misguided empathy can cause catastrophic harm. It can lead an investigator to ignore glaring red flags because they feel sorry for a suspect, or to falsely accuse someone because they over-identified with a complainant. Professional neutrality actually protects everyone involved. It protects the vulnerable person from being judged against a pre-existing narrative.
Which we know happens all the time.
It protects the integrity of the process, ensuring it remains fair. And it ensures that the interventions you put in place are solving the real problem, not the imaginary one you created in your head. Evidence-led interpretation is the truest form of care.
That is just wow. So looking back at the ground we've covered today for this deep dive, the journey from the moment you walk into a room to the moment you make a decision is, well, it's just fraught with invisible landmines.
It really is a minefield.
We started with the sheer fragility of memory and the danger of walking into a scene and immediately contaminating it with our conversational muddy boots.
Right, asking those leading questions that rewrite a person's recollection in real time.
From there, we explore the internal battle against our own psychology, the immense effort it takes to fight off comfortable narratives, to resist the urge to just say, he's a good kid.
And instead force ourselves to look only at what the physical, observable evidence is telling us, no matter how uncomfortable that reality might be.
Yeah. We discuss the painstaking discipline of sweeping up the micro details, treating those tiny behavioral shifts like puzzle pieces without a box.
And locking them down with factual, prompt documentation before the ticking clock of the brain's hard drive just deletes them.
And finally, we found the balance, reconciling the cold, objective rigor of a forensic investigator with the deep, relational compassion of a human leader through the practice of professional neutrality.
It is a phenomenal way to view the world. And it really elevates this entire discussion from just a set of practical instructions for a school official into a much broader system-level philosophy.
So what's the big takeaway for everyone listening?
Well, the ultimate leadership question this framework demands we ask is incredibly confronting. In any culture you are a part of, whether that is your company's HR department, your local community board, or even the dynamic around your own dinner table. When a crisis hits, are people responding to what the evidence actually shows, or are they just reacting to the story they already decided to believe?
Reacting to the story they already decided to believe. That is the trap we all fall into because it's just so much easier.
It is.
It takes far less energy to play a pre-recorded narrative than to stop, observe, and let the messy, complicated facts speak for themselves.
Totally.
The best investigators know that the truth is easiest to lose at the very beginning. That is why they protect the evidence long enough for reality to emerge.
Exactly.
It makes you wonder, though, when you really internalize how easily a single conversation with a biased adult can permanently overwrite a fragile memory.
Oh, yeah.
If our brains are that suggestible, how much of your own personal history is actually true?
That's a scary thought.
Think about the stories you tell about your own childhood, the conflicts, the chaotic moments, the family lore. How many of those memories are the pristine, original evidence, and how many are just the muddy footprint someone else left in your mind decades ago? Keep your boots clean, stay curious, and we will see you next time.